Hey listeners, if you like this podcast, check out our other shows, The Study Table and Training Table. Listen to archived content and in-depth interviews with insiders working with student athletes. It's on our website, www.fredopie.com. Welcome to the Dinner Table, a discussion with food as a lens into cultures and societies. I'm your host, Fred Opie.
On today's episode, Fred interviews Yemaja Jubilee, a woman who has worked with senior citizens on health and nutrition. Miss Jubilee discusses the role the church plays in promoting soul food, how diets have remained the same through generations while physical activity has changed, and trying to break the cycle of obesity in her own family. Enjoy the show.
This is how we deal with the emotional side of health. Because I think we as African American people, we do not look at life holistically and how it's interrelated. The food is just one thing, just a piece of it. And most of the time there is something else going on which causes food addictions. And in our community right now, if you look at the level of obesity, I really do think that part of it is, with the way the sedentary lives that we lead now, and with all the computers and things that kids have, you see the obesity rate is amongst the kids. And two, I really do feel like churches promote unhealthy living practice. Because of the food, they never change the style of food. A church is a big part of the African American community. The church has the power to take the congregation and mold it and take it in a whole, spirituality is not just going to church on Sundays. The church promoted health holistically, dealing with the food when they serve the food. And some churches do. If they promoted that, there would be a much healthier community. They could provide programs, people that are members for the membership, and to promote healthy wellness programs. So there'd be total wellness. It wouldn't just be one-on-one emphasis. When you go to church, some of the African-American churches, some of the ladies are just so huge. I was one of them. But until I really looked at where my health issues are and was willing to take the reality of what was going on and said, hey, you need to do something about this. And someone else brought it to my attention. But you have to have an open mind. And I feel like in a church, when the minister can come from the pulpit from his own health, that, he plants seeds in people's mind, and then the seeds grow. And push it out into the ministries of the church.
And you don't see that happening right now, you're saying?
I don't see that happening in all churches. I really don't. I think they do some. I used to run a program in Virginia I used to work for the Virginia Department of Health. And part of my job was a health educator, and I went into the African-American churches to educate them on movement, on physical activity, and nutrition.
What were your experiences? Go ahead.
That was really good because I taught praise exercise. And I had a component of the program where nutritionists come in, and I would go to these churches with seniors and with the youth and do a group once a week. I had like 6 churches that I visited at one particular time.
Did you make inroads in changing or modifying?
Yes, I feel like I did because what we did was we offered a program all during the year, and I did what I called a down-home gathering. At the end of it, we had a healthy meal that everybody prepared from the different recipes that we had shared during the educational period, and it was all healthy. And it was all healthy to show them that they could do that, and some of them lost weight, some of them changed, and some of these, like I said, were seniors and youth. So I feel like I made some inroads because I did that program for about a year, maybe a year and a half.
So they were receptive to it?
Yes, they were very receptive. But see, it had to be endorsed from the pulpit. The pastor would allow me to come in as part of the program on Sunday and say I'm going to be there if people wanted to know. And he endorsed it from the pulpit. So the people followed.
Did you find that when dealing with pastors, is it a generational thing, or if you're able to sit down and talk with the pastors, they're receptive?
Well, I think a lot of it is territorial, for lack of a better word. Some of the pastors, like I tell you, my father is a minister, and I never did get the program in his church. Okay,
you could never get him to do it.
Now, I could never get him to do it. He was president of the Bluestone Harmony Association, which was like maybe 50 or 60 different churches in there. He never would bring it to his own church. I tell you what helped me get into it, because my father was a minister.
Yeah.
I knew the language. Okay? And I knew what to say, scriptural based, your body is your temple thing.
Oh, I got you. So if you came in with the word, they were receptive.
Yes, and I learned that if I used the language, I broke down a lot more barriers. a lot of ministers have a lot of control over their congregation, and most of the time the congregation was women.
Okay.
It wasn't a whole lot of black men.
Okay.
The ministers, a lot of ministers have a following. That's just the way it was.
I mean, the idea of food being, what do they call it, creature comfort?
Food is the most readily available drug that you can have, okay? If you can make food just like you do alcohol, just like you do drugs, just like you do anything else that become addictive, food becomes addictive. So when you find your times lonely and depressed, and your only freedom that you can find is to have food to, I can go have this and I can control this because I can't control nothing else that's going on around me.
Okay.
Then I can go bake this cake. I used to bake a cake, and by the time that I got through making the batter, because the batter was so good, I had eaten up half the batter. You know? I eat up half the, and that's, I'm 238 pounds. You know what I'm saying? And because of the sugar is addictive, and I think the food itself becomes your friend. And then you isolate within yourself. You isolate yourself with the walls of fat. You isolate yourself with more walls of fat, and then you isolate yourself within yourself. And then if you find yourself, church is the only outlet you're going to have. And I speak that from personal experience. And I see many women in this, we're in that same boat.
Wow.
So it's like having chains, okay? I felt, and I only speak from my experience with the weight issue around, I feel like in my family, that I'm the person that broke the chain with the food in my family. But like I told you, because my mother and my grandmother, and going back further, there were, the obesity issues. And all around me. I mean, it wasn't just our family. It was all around me. And so there was power in control to somebody come and tell you. Maybe the only compliment you got was, you cooked a good pie.
Okay.
Oh, you baked a nice Sunday meal the other day. So-and-so had cooked such and such and such a thing. That was all the positive things that you got. So you learn, okay, you're cooking, you're eating at the same time, and then you're cooking, you're eating some more, and a lot of times it's the only compliment that you get. It's from the food, and then it becomes a part of, okay, this is how I'm going to get what I need to build my self-esteem, which is an unhealthy way to do it, is the compliments from that. But yet at the same time, your self-esteem is very, very low on the inside. And I only speak that from personal experience. And then you have to learn other tools to be able to do it. And I saw that in my family, generation after generation after generation, with the food. The food is addictive.
The cooking and the food is a way of getting kudos.
Yes.
So people gravitate to it and start becoming associated with it, and that's the positive or the tropes that they get.
Yeah, it is. And see, that whole socialization process around food, you have to really look at the whole socialization process around food. I mean, it's a process. I mean, and it takes, if Nana was in, my husband's mother, who's 92, she tells great stories about, because she was a good cook, and from, like I told you, from Painter, Virginia. And she has all these stories she tells about how the breakfasts and the dinners, and because I think that's all the stroke that she got is growing up was being the cook, And I know my mother, and I know my grandmother. I mean, she raised 10, 11 children. My other grandma had 15, 16 kids. I mean, they had large families. It wasn't like 2 or 3 kids, and you cooked. It wasn't always a balanced meal. And whatever you could find to make a meal out of, my mother used to always pride herself out of being able to make a meal out of nothing, she would say. And that was a lot of people. A lot of starch, beans was a staple in that, and greens, when it fall at different times of the year, right? Or whatever she had canned up. But the volumes of it, that's where the food addiction comes in, eating more and more and more, and then going back late at night with all them desserts that she fixed up. I mean, it's all a process. And I think that in the community that we have now, in the African American community, when I look at the rate of obesity in the community, I think it takes a combination of things in order to clear up some of the, even with the health issues, it has to be a full spectrum operation of program that's going to address all different kinds of areas, not just one area, not just the physical part, because it's more than about the physical. It's emotional nourishment you're substituting.
Okay. Do you see a difference with, your children, your husband, to the younger generation? A big difference, or just eating the same traditions?
My daughter is obese. And I think, I know my husband has changed his eating habits since he eats soul food every now and then, but he don't eat it as much because I don't cook it. And when he goes out, he may have something extra, or he go away on a vacation. He tell me, look, I ate soul food all the week. I came back, I gained 5 to 7 pounds. I think that a lot of the people that I've come in contact with, they eat on and off of it. You know, they go through spells with it. You know, like I may eat this now and I may not eat that later on. Or I know my girlfriends, and I had a girlfriend that died. She got so obese that she died because she had the bariatric surgery. It's to have a that bypass surgery.
Yeah.
She died because she was so obese and could not get the food under control. She died maybe a year and a half ago as a result. And her mother's obese, and then her sister. And then she had a niece. They're giving her same habits. They say, you know, they tell them not to be eating. It's do as I say, not do as I do. And I think that's a lot of times what happens. So, you know, it's a lot. I think food is a food addiction. I really do think people can become addicted to food.
It may be that this has to be like the children of Israel, wait for the older folks to die out in the desert before there's some changes.
But I really do think, you know, with studies like yours and information being published about what you're finding, even, you know, you have to start somewhere, because it's like, when you put something out, it has a ripple effect. It takes time for it to, you know, just like all the momentum that this has gained. There's a lot of attention now to the obesity rate, and I think that just smoking was never smoking. Now the obesity, people having to look at it, you know, but it has to be brought out in the open.
The goal is to try to, first of all, increase our knowledge of our history, and then to try to, towards the end, promote some suggestions for change for the future.
It's not what you're eating, it's what's eating you. And a lot of times people have, you know, trying to keep up with the Joneses, working 2 and 3 jobs and stuff and eat it. The fast food, that's another whole issue there, is that staying away from these fast food places. Okay, because I call them sit and gobble lanes.
Say it again.
Sit and gobble lanes. I mean, seriously, because you go there, now they're trying to change it now, but you have to be made aware, you know, there's some things, and everything is a process. You do one thing at a time to make a change. You don't have to change, you know, when you hear the word change, people get afraid. And I myself, too, it's the same way. I'm not saying that, you know, that I have this all down pat, because I don't.
Okay.
But change. Be not afraid of change, and you can change the way that, yes, the body is a temple, okay, but God has also given us to be able to make choice. But we're inundated by all the commercials that come on the television set, and the old habits that we have, we say they're hard to break. I used to smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day. I weighed 238 pounds. I was the most unhealthy person that you wanted to see, okay? I did one thing at a time.
Okay.
One thing at a time, and when I did one thing at a time, I had to look at it holistically.
Okay.
And it's a process, and I've been on this journey, like I told you, since 1988, 89, and when you look at it holistically, and I think the base of looking at it holistically is looking at what's happening to you spiritually, and it's not religion, and it's not saying where the church is, but looking at what's happening on the inside, because life is lived from the inside out.
Would I be disingenuous if I didn't address some of these eating traditions that are rooted in the church, though?
No, if you don't address that, you fall in the same category with everybody else. It's all kinds of things that came out of the church, because the church was a focal point in the community, and that's where you would go to socialize. Even you had the church in the community, and then in my community we had a shot house. That's where you could go get bootleg whiskey, and you have parties. That would be right down the street. And you see the diggings? I used to see the diggings as a young girl. I wrote a poem called Where Have All the Christian Folk Gone? They sure ain't gone to no heavenly home. I got a double message. I would see the diggings in the church.
Okay.
And then I would see them down at the shot house having parties. Coming, you know,
is that another avenue for getting soul food too? That those shot houses?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, because it's gonna be the hot spicy stuff, right? The sausages and the pig feet in the jar, right? You know those pickle pigs. They have shot houses. A house of ill repute in every community where you could go anything you want to get. Yep. Pickle pig feet, pickle eggs. You know the eggs, whole eggs.
Yeah.
And you know they had these sausages. Oh.
And the same folks that were in church on Sunday down at the shot house on Friday
I used to see them going down there, and they were right down the street from me. I used to see them. I mean, it was such a double message. It was such a double message. I tell you, that was the first poem that I wrote. And I'm saying to myself, how you going to die and go to heaven? I just saw you down the street. Or I see them coming out of the liquor store. And the ministers, there were times when I would get asked by a deacon in the church, would you go to the liquor store and get liquor for me? I'm not saying that everybody's like that.
Well, you know, it's funny. When I've interviewed people and asked them, what have you seen make the biggest inroad in changing diets of people you know or yourself? Almost all of them have said the Nation of Islam. Not that they became members, but the message made a lot of people give up pork. Now, a lot of people were sympathizers of the Nation, particularly during the 70s, and it changed their eating habits.
Well,
not significantly, but certainly got rid of that pork.
But see, the South, it wasn't that big a thing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Where I was from, I mean, I never heard of a whole lot of stuff until I moved to Richmond.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? In the community where I live, everybody was Baptist.
Yeah, it's an urban thing. I think the Nation is mostly urban movement.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. For more interviews and related content, you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and other podcast distributors. Also, check out our website at www.fredopie.com. Ask questions on Facebook at Frederick Douglass Opie and on Twitter at Dr. Fred D. Opie. For information about advertising on the show, please email us at fdopie@gmail.com. That's fdopie@gmail.com.
Hey folks, thanks for listening to the show. If you enjoy the Dinner Table with Fred Opie, please take a moment to spread the word by reviewing the podcast on iTunes. If you're enjoying this particular episode, check out the show with Dr. Alvina Moody Fulton, the Queen of Nutrition. It's available on the Dinner Table show page, and here's a clip.
I became a vegetarian before, and I mean complete vegetarian. And I can give you a diet if you come to me and need a diet. I can give you a diet that will include some animal products if you want them or think you need them. But I would always say, don't fry them. Don't fill them full of grease. Bake them or boil them naturally. And so this book, Vegetarianism, Facts or Myth, is one of the books that I wrote many years ago. And then this one here, Kitchen Bible. This book, the booklet was written in you'll see it if you get a copy. It's written December 11th, 1964. And it tells you about cooking. We overcook our food. And one of the reasons we need enzymes and need to go on a fast is we cook our food to death and there's no life in it. Timetable for how to cook your food. Some of us don't know how long to cook what food. We just cook it and overcook it. Anything cooked, no matter what it is, over 120 degrees Fahrenheit will have no life in it. It's the same. You can take peas or beans and corn and plant them. If you don't cook them, they will grow. But if you cook them, there's no life in them and they won't grow. So it will do something to the life in your body. That will I'd like to explain to you about cooked food.
Now back to the show.
What else? Is there a class issue that needs to be dealt with? Do you see this as typically working class people that are eating like this, or all of us?
I think all of us had those. I don't think you can just categorize it, because you'll see some fine black women, professional women, and still have eating problems. Okay. You know, I got eating problems. They go out and work all week long and come back home and eat. Okay. You know, but the common thing that I hear, this common thread that you have going with this, is your roots. Okay. And part of what you are addressing is about the roots. Okay. Of where all of this stuff has come from, and it's moved geographically. You know, from the south to the north, and I think that has nothing to do with it, because your roots are from the south, and you're from the southern traditions. Okay.
When I grew up on Sundays with my mother, I just remember coming home and smell of fried chicken coming to the house, and collard greens and black eyed peas and rice on New Year's Eve. So we did all the same thing.
Yeah, and she brought those traditions with her.
And my mom actually was born here, but my grandmother's from Windsor, North Carolina on one side, the other side of the family.
So it's just
from Cloverdale.
Right. So it's still the roots.
Yeah.
It's still from the roots.
I mean, certainly consistent. And I mean, one thing I heard you say is that, you know, even professional women are still eating that way.
Yes.
Are you on the conviction now that soul food really just is not a healthy way to eat?
Well, I really, like I said before, I think it goes back to the way that you, now I wouldn't say that, the way that you prepare it.
Okay.
And that you can eat it in moderation.
Okay.
But you don't make it an everyday thing of having ham and biscuits every day.
Okay.
You have to, you have to allow, because I don't think you should deprive yourself.
Okay.
But you just eat it on, I go through periods where, I might have to have a little taste of this, a little taste of that.
Mm-hmm.
But basically I know that I can never eat that way again.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's a mind thing. It's discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And I've incorporated, I think, the exercise piece. I exercise. I go to the gym twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's been a process as well. And I walk. The days that I don't go to the gym, I walk. I do 45 to 60 minutes worth of cardio on the days that I walk. And see, people have to learn that they have to. It's multifaceted. You have to eat, change your modification, your diet, drink water, whatever, and put the exercise piece in, and you'll be able to eat the other stuff a little bit more. But also, I think you also have to look at, again, go back to your family and look at where their health issues are. Because when I think about my grandmother, look at the health.
Okay.
Look at the health problems. My grandmother was a diabetic, and my mom and them used to bring her candy. Because she liked that, what kind of, it's called peanut brittle. It used to be called peanut brittle.
I know what you're talking about.
And she loved that peanut butter, and they would buy it and bring it to her, knowing that she was a diabetic. But she was addicted to the sugar.
Now, what about these folks that I interview and they say, well, my grandfather, he lived to be 106, and my other grandmother, she lived to be 92. I mean, what do you say to people like that when they say, this is what some people will tell me. There's nothing wrong with where we ate. We just don't add all that pesticides in like we do now. But there's nothing. They ate like that, and they lived to be over 100.
Well, I think they're sticking their head in the sand. Because you have to be realistic, you have to be realistic about, when you got a lot of health problems, if you have high blood pressure, you could have a stroke in a minute that puts you at risk. Mm-hmm. And I see a lot of the seniors here, because of the high salt content that they were eating, I would say to you, because we have high blood pressure screenings once a week, every week, we have saved so many lives from stroke.
Oh, wow.
You understand what I'm saying? The salt content, we just eat a lot of salt. And I would say that a lot of people, if they don't face the whole issue about what their parents had, because that's what I look at, looking at what your parents had, looking at what did they die of. Just because they had it, you don't have to buy into that piece of it. Yes, something is going to kill you, and yes, they may have lived a little bit longer, but you don't know. You don't know. You never know when you're going to die. True, but you still can you feel better. You function better in life when you take care of yourself holistically. You just have a sense of who you are, where you are, and what you are about. I think it just empowers you.
What do you think of this medical doctor I interviewed, I guess last week he said the problem, just like you said, you guys are talking in accord about the movement thing, first of all. He said that, we used to walk a lot more, we used to do a whole lot more as far as physical movement. The second thing he said is, I think the problem is that junk food has hijacked soul food.
And fast food. You forget the fast food. Sit and gobble lanes.
I think I might have to create a chapter called Gobblings.
Just sit and gobble lanes. It's called that's my word for it. Sit and gobble lanes, right?
And you mean by that is that we're just eating too much or eating too much fast food?
Well, if you notice what fast food in Nashville, there's a place in Nashville, there was Wendy's, there was McDonald's, there was Hardee's, there was all the fast food chains. You can go down a chain in any city. If you go to any major city, you're going to find all the fast food chains. You just have to decide, Burger King, which one you're going to eat at, right?
Okay.
That's why I call it sit and gobble lane.
Okay.
It's sit and gobble lane because you can make a stop over here and eat a hamburger over here. You can go to McDonald's and get their fries. So you sit there, you eat that, you gobble, you move on to the next one. That's why I came up with that term, sit and gobble lane.
I listened back to one of my interviews, I think, yesterday, and the person's argument on the tape was that we eat much more now, and we have access to much more. She said as a child, we had my two sisters and my grandparents and my parents. So there wasn't no seconds.
Well, I can say that as far as my family, because we raised everything we had in the.
So you all had abundance.
Oh yeah, and we shared, but we had enough for us and shared with other people.
Mm-hmm.
That's where my mother was. She cared for herself and everybody else, right? We had, but I also think too, like the part about not being active. Now,
you think that's a bigger factor more so than the fat content and salt factor?
No. I think the equal is important because, yes, my grandmother and my grandmother was raised on a farm, and they worked up from sun up to sundown.
Okay.
You know, they were in the fields. They raised corn. They had cotton. They raised all kinds of things on the farm. They raised all kinds of things, and they worked, and then they come home and cook and did all of that. Okay, but that still, they had those health problems. They didn't go to the doctor. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
They didn't have the money to go to the doctor with.
It's like the screenings and the blood pressure.
No. And you know, if you notice now, my great grandmother died when she was 105.
Okay.
She had what is now called Alzheimer's.
Okay.
In that time, they thought she was crazy.
Uh-huh.
They put her in Petersburg in the crazy place.
Uh-huh.
But it was Alzheimer's.
Okay.
You know, she would go in and out the same way. She was 105 years old.
Okay.
And she just lost, she didn't lose her mind. She had Alzheimer's.
Okay.
And then my other grandfather died. He drank himself to death. He had a still.
Okay.
He made moonshine. Okay. Look. It is just, when I sit here and talk about it, he used to suck raw eggs and drink moonshine.
Wow.
Okay? My grandmother, as I told you, his wife was a diabetic, and she used to sniff camphor, or he had a camphor bottle, because she had 11 children, and she was really in it by herself, really.
She used to sniff what?
Camphor.
What's that?
It's oh man, how do I tell you what this is?
I mean, I've never heard of it.
Yeah, it's a camphor. It was something that...
It's like snuff?
No, it wasn't snuff. It was a liquid in a bottle. It's CAMPHOR or something like that.
Uh-huh. Is something to get you high when you snuff it?
I don't know what it is, but she used to sniff it all the time.
Uh-huh.
She would always have a camphor bottle.
Uh-huh.
Always.
I mean, is this something that a lot of older women used to do, or?
Well, the women in my family, each one of them had different habits. Like my grandma on my daddy's side, she made wines out of everything. She made wines out of dandelion. Yes.
Yeah.
She made wine. Anything that would move, that was a plant. If it was a plant, she made wine out of it. And she kept the whole family drunk, okay?
Uh-huh.
I mean, so she had her thing. That was her thing. And then my aunts, everybody had their own little habits.
Uh-huh.
But they ended up having health problems, and they had strokes, and you didn't know it till they died. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
They would be dead, and then the doctor would tell you, well, maybe something was wrong with their heart.
Okay.
But they never went to the doctor that much.
Okay.
So, all those things,
But do you find that with the seniors you work with now, is it hard to get them to go to the doctor?
Yes. And I threaten them. And some of them won't come here because when they're sick, because they know I'm going to take them to the hospital.
Okay.
They say, Miss Jubilee, I ain't coming because I know you're going to send me to the hospital. And I go with them to the hospital so that they can't back down. And then I call the family to come over there with them till after I get them there.
Okay.
And that's been people with high blood pressure.
Okay.
Because the nurse will come in here and take the blood pressure, and she said, Miss Jubilee, this person needs to go to the hospital. And he said, oh, we're not going. Okay. I called 911, and we go.
Okay.
I don't take any chances.
Huh.
I don't take any chances at all with it. And if somebody gets sick here, they faint, they tell me, oh, I'm all right. They don't want to go, oh, no, I just come out of the hospital. Okay. I'm listening to everything they say. I let them go ahead and get it all off their chest. It goes in one ear and come out the other one.
I mean, they don't want to go because this is habit. They don't want to go. They think they can't afford it. I mean, what?
Well, they have the insurance. It's just that they don't want to be in the hospital. I think some of them just don't want to be in the hospital.
Okay.
And some of them don't want to be sick. Some of them don't want to be sick. Oh, this is just a dizzy spell, right? And it goes away. Well, how long have you been having these spells and going away?
Huh.
You know what I'm saying? That type of thing. Those are the questions you have to ask. Huh. And some of them haven't even told the kids.
Wow.
So you go ahead on, and I'll take care of business.
To check out our podcast archive, suggest show topics, and advertise on the show, and to book me as a guest and or speaker, visit our website, www.fredopie.com. That's www.fredopie.com. For information about advertising on the show, please email us at fdopie@gmail.com. That's fdopie@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and be good.